השתנה הלילה זה מכל הלילות, מכל הלילות.
What are you doing? It's not Pesach yet. Why are you asking these questions?
I'm asking another 4 questions.
What 4 questions are you going to ask about?
About kashrus.
About kashrus? Okay, go ask the questions. Go.
How do you kasher small appliances like the microwave and the mixer?
That's a great question. Let's see. The mixer is very hard to kasher because when you're using the mixer, a lot of flour gets in it and it gets onto the actual mixer. And when it gets all dirty, it's very hard to clean. So if you wanted to go ahead and replace the bowl and use the bowl and kasher the bowl, you could not use the bowl for 24 hours and put it in a pot of boiling water or pour boiling water on it because you don't necessarily put any hot water on it. But the actual mixer you're going to need to replace. The microwave is a different story. The microwave, what you can do is, again, not use for 24 hours, what we call in halacha an eino ben yomo, not use it for 24 hours. You take a cup and you put it in one corner of the microwave and you turn on the microwave for 10 minutes to evaporate the water, and then you put it in the other corner of the microwave in order to evaporate the water again, so you've kashered the entire microwave. But there's still one outstanding thing that you have to do. First of all, everything before you're going to kasher it, you have to clean it very well. But also we have a question about the rotating tray that's in the microwave. The rotating tray is sometimes plastic, is sometimes glass. Right? We can't use it. We can't kasher glass for Pesach. But what you can do is you can clean it very well and then double wrap it in saran wrap and then put it back into the microwave, or just not use the tray for the entire Yom Tov. 2 other small appliances that you didn't ask about are the urn that we use for hot water. So the problem with the urn that we use for hot water is, although it's only used for hot water, but very often on Shabbos, someone might put a kugel or something else on top of it to keep it warm. Then it's no longer only used for water. So we have a custom to replace the urn. However, if you're careful and you put it in a corner of the kitchen and you make sure you don't use it for anything else, you might be able to pour boiling water over the spigot where the water is coming out of, and pour boiling water into the actual urn, and that would kosherize it. As far as the other most popular item, we get this question every other day as we get closer to Pesach, is about the keurig maker. People love their coffee. They can't do without their K-cups for 8 days, and Baruch Hashem, the OU has a big list of the regular K-cups that are used for all year round that can even be used for Pesach. But how do you kasher your keurig maker? So one of the things you have to do is you have to go ahead and run a cycle of boiling water through it in case they used it for the hot chocolate that might have made it become chametz or other items that might be an issue. You have to run a cycle of a cup of coffee without the coffee grinds in there. And then what you need to do in order to kasher it is you need to use a kosher Pesach K-cup to put in and run a cycle so it actually kashers the pin that makes the hole in the K-cup before it's going to before all the grinds are going to fall into the cup.
Really, I didn't know that. I have another question.
Okay, go ahead, ask away.
Can I kasher my silver like my kiddush cup and my flatware?
That's a great question. You have a kiddush cup you like to use every Shabbos?
Yeah.
So that's something that, because the kiddush cup is usually used only cold, we don't use it hot. So one can not use it for 24 hours, make sure that it's clean, and also check to be sure that there's no lip on the top of the kiddush cup that things could get underneath it that would be a problem. But otherwise you could just take it, put it in a pot of boiling water that make sure the cup and the pot haven't been used for 24 hours, and go ahead and then it's kosherized. Then you wash it out with cold water after you finish, and you have your kiddush cup for Pesach. The silverware is very similar to the kiddush cup, that you would not use it for 24 hours and put it in a pot of boiling water, but you have to make sure that if you're using a service for 24, we have a lot of people at a Seder, using service for 24, you don't put all 72 pieces of silverware in the pot at the same time, because you can't really do that. You have to make sure to put a few at a time so it gets boiled, and you have to make sure throughout that there's a rolling boil, that the water remains boiling, because after you put in a few pieces of cold silverware, the hot water is no longer going to be hot. So when you see that it stops boiling, it stops bubbling, you have to take the silverware out and wait for the water to boil again before you can put more silverware in. But the one thing you have to be careful with the silverware is that's for plain silverware that doesn't have a design on it. When you have a design on it where some food particles can get inside the design, you may have to torch those parts of the silverware. So you can only kosherize silverware that's plain and simple, that doesn't have some fancy design on it.
You see this countertop in front of me. How do we kasher this?
Like this one here, for instance?
Yeah.
So there are many different types of materials that counters are made of. The most popular are granite, or silo stone, and other types that generally what we need to do is you need to boil up a pot of boiling water, make sure the counter has not been used for anything hot for 24 hours. This is a general rule by koshering, because if you're going to kosher with boiling water, any taste that might be there after 24 hours is considered a negative taste, a taste that will not come back into the item. So therefore, you're allowed to pour boiling water on it. But the problem is, with a counter this size, I have a very big counter here, you need to be able to pour, and with the little kettle that you have, you're not going to get the entire counter at one time. One of the things that you need to do, we're concerned that if you're not going to be able to pour one straight pour on the entire counter, and because you've removed the water from the fire, so it's going to lose its heat very quickly, Chazal have said that we need to use something that will add to the temperature to keep it hot throughout. So they call it an even meluban, literally a burning stone, where you can either use a pot of some sort, some metal disc of some sort, or an upside down frying pan that you put on the fire and burn it, and then keep that. As you're pouring it, you burn that and you pour the water into that, and continuously pour the water onto the counters, onto the counters, so you can go ahead and kosher the entire counter. So this counter would be made of some type of silo stone or Caesar stone, but other types of counters they might be formica. Formica is very popular, but it's made of plastic, and it's very difficult to kosherize plastic, and there might be holes in them that will be an issue. So therefore, we recommend that you cover the counters, with a countertop, and then it's not an issue because nothing hot's going to go on the counter. Another type of old-time countertop would be that of ceramic, which might even be a sink also. A ceramic cannot be kashered, so that would also need to be covered.
What about the backsplash on the kitchen table? How do we kasher that?
Right behind the sink, you see the area right behind the sink where sometimes you pour hot water into it and it splashes back, or you pour hot gravy, or you pour other things and it splashes back. So when you're covering the counter, or when you're pouring boiling water, depending on what the material that the counter is made of, you're gonna make sure to get that spot as well. A table, on the other hand, we don't really cook on the table, we don't do hot things on the table, but we do put things down very hot on the table. It would seem that it's very difficult, most tables, that they're made of materials that cannot be kashered, so we put extra tablecloths on the table and make sure that it's always covered. Whereas maybe during the year, you might use the table uncovered for dairy and covered for meat or some other way. For Pesach, we try to cover the table always to be sure that nothing gets onto the table.
Thanks so much for answering my questions, Abba. Now we could actually kasher the kitchen.
Great! Chag Kasher v'Sameach.